All right, going live in three, two, one. Now, this is the Working Title Experience, episode number 12. And for this evening, we have Anna back on. Anna, how are you doing?
I am doing okay. This has been a trying week, but I took an hour
Maybe we
nap,
have Anna back
woke
on.
up, and I'm ready to talk again.
Are you one of those that celebrates St. Patrick's Day?
No, I hate holidays like today. I'm not a fan of amateur hour and lines and people who don't know how to drink properly. So this is when like I said, all the amateurs come out to play. People that don't go out at all decide to go out today. So it's usually just a shit show. But, I avoided crowds. I don't, I'm like, who are these degenerates that just get to take off work and like get hammered? Like, who are these people?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are unemployed. So there you go. And they're spending their stimulus checks on green beer. So good for them, I guess.
Well, the fact you brought up the stimulus, I went into my bank account today.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of money in there, and it turns out it was the stimulus had already been deposited into my account. At first I thought it was I haven't filed my taxes yet, and I thought maybe my bookkeeper had filed them early, and I realized it's the stimulus. So I already got,
Right.
so that was kind of a surprise. I don't really think it's a good idea. I think we discussed that already, but I mean it's already there, so there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to give it back, but
Sure. I'm like, I'm sure you could write a check to the US Treasury, but who's doing that? Right.
no, I got there's a guy who I look at on Facebook for traffic information for one of my affiliates that I do traffic reports for in Pennsylvania. And going back to the St. Patrick's Day thing, this guy he's really good. He's a friendly guy. I'm not mocking him as a person, but starting around February the 17th, he decorates his Facebook page with St. Patrick's Day stuff, like his banner says St. Patrick's Day. Um, it kind of reminds me of like when people put up their Christmas trees and ornaments like before Thanksgiving. I mean, uh,
Right.
this guy's like I guess he just loves St. Patrick's Day because it's for the entire month. That's all he does is do St. He has this whole um thing about it. I mean, I've never seen
Is he
anybody
Irish or like what is his
that I
connection to
don't.
the holiday?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering maybe he's Irish or maybe he likes to drink a lot. I don't know, but
There you go.
but it was just I just found it funny. Like out of all the holiday, I mean, that's almost like if you were to like celebrate Arbor Day and you like a month ahead before Arbor Day, you put up a banner on your Facebook page and said, "I'm celebrating Arbor Day for the next month." Like it's I just
Right. It seems a bit arbitrary and it's not really it's not a spiritual holiday. It's not a religious holiday. It's not really a seasonal holiday. It's everybody knows it's just a booze fest. And every year it seems like we do like a wiki search on St. Patrick's Day and like where it came from and stuff. But I think it used to be like I think it was like the introduction to Christianity in Ireland or something like that. Like it used to have a more meaningful um purpose, but now it's just like just let's all get fucked up. As fucked up as you can get. So I'm not a fan of days like today. I don't like this was a big thing in the Midwest when I lived in Michigan. Like Thanksgiving Eve, that's
yeah.
a big one, and then like New Year's, obviously. So all of those holidays, I like to lay low. Like I don't like the crowds. I don't like any of that shit. So
Are you saying on Thanksgiving Eve people get drunk or it's just a big holiday?
everybody like I suppose is like back home from college, right? Because those are the crazy partiers. And so they just all get super fucked up. It's like
Oh,
one of the biggest bar holidays,
oh, is it?
almost as big as St. Patty's, maybe even bigger actually.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
I didn't either until I moved to Michigan, but it's massive.
Maybe it's more of a localized thing because I can tell you in this area on Thanksgiving Eve there's hardly anybody on the roads at all. It's like dead. It's almost like they're all spending time with their families.
Which you'd think they should be doing. I don't know if it's like it's a Midwest thing or I don't. I know you're not too far from DC, but maybe if you got closer to the city, you'd see it. I'm not sure, but I do know that and maybe and I think it's a Midwest thing because in California I was completely unaware of it. But apparently, yeah, all the kids come home. and they're like, let's all, get together, because everybody's home, and they just go crazy. And I've worked at a bar for like 6 years, so
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
yeah, that was definitely a thing.
What did you do when you were at the what job did you have there?
I was a bartender. I hated it. I
Oh,
hate people. Like, it wasn't a job I should have had, but it's like I did it when I was traveling abroad as well. It's just kind of like it's a great way to meet people, and whether it be patrons or coworkers, or it's like a fun job for a young person to have. But now I could never even imagine. My tolerance for people is so low. So I'm so glad I don't have to work with the public, because the public is awful.
I imagine you. I mean, being a woman, were you probably hit on a lot by a lot of guys, drunk guys?
Yeah, but I mean, like, those guys will hit on anything that's moving. It wasn't like I ever really felt special getting hit on at a bar by a drunk person, sort of a thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like, I was never like, oh, they think I'm pretty. It's like, you're about to pass out, you're completely blacked out. But as long as, my rule was, as long as you could say the drink, you could have the drink. Like, I didn't care. Just tip me and here's your alcohol. Bye. Like, not my problem.
You
So,
did you have to come out from behind the counter at all?
occasionally, like, to grab supplies or something.
Oh, okay. So you don't have
But
to, not like a waitress kind of a situation then, or
no, I mean, I have been that too, but mostly just, yeah, bartending. So it was kind of nice to have the barrier, but like, don't think that people weren't throwing up literally on the bar. Like, that
oh
happened as well. So people,
God.
people, like, right, the public's disgusting. But again, as a young person, it was just kind of funny. And there's no better way to make friends quickly than working in hospitality or a bar or restaurant or something like that, because you're literally in the trenches, and you're like a unified front with your coworkers, so you bond very quickly, which is kind of cool. So I enjoyed that atmosphere of it all.
Gotcha. Was there no when the people would throw up, was there like, I mean, there was a, I assume there was like a massive odor situation for a while until they cleaned it up. I mean, who had to clean it up? I mean, was it you?
No, I mean, sometimes, like, you have to. I mean, I never had to clean up vomit or anything, but usually it was like the bar back or something. Like, hey, you got to, and they have to drop everything they're doing, obviously, and attend to that first. So, but yeah, that's how I've had people fall asleep on the bar, and you got to throw them out that way. But that was easy. You just, like, wave the bouncer down, and they just take care of it for you. So,
I gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have a tolerance for that. I'm not really. I've had jobs where I've had to deal with customers in some ways, and I usually just have a bad attitude to begin with, or when I have to deal with that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
So
think you're right, they think they're right, and then it's just a big mess. So,
so I wanted to pick up last week from where we left off last week with the
yeah.
conspiracy stuff. Now, we were kind of having a debate, but I think it kind of was more like a dialectic. Do you think? I mean, where we were more or less just exchanging thoughts rather than actually trying to convince each other to think our way was the correct way.
Yeah, just like a discussion. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because yeah, at first I thought we were going to do a debate, and then it just seemed like, a dialectic is where you just have a good idea, good exchange of ideas to see how
Yeah.
how we're doing. So, okay, I think that was a good way to continue that. I as far as I think we left off where with the JFK movie, we were talking about that.
Right. Yeah.
You have not had a chance to see that yet, have you? Though.
I haven't. No, I just got through like the first episode of Allen versus Pharaoh. So I've been
Oh,
working on that puppy first, and then
what
I'm gonna.
what is that? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that is. Is that a
It
new?
was the Woody Allen documentary.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, the four-part series. Yeah, this weekend was wild, so unfortunately I wasn't able to do much of anything. But this weekend, hopefully, I can sit down and watch it. But
Yeah, I would recommend it. Now, the funny part is I don't actually think a lot of it's like factual, or I just I don't think it's real, and I don't think the conspiracies a lot of them hold up in the movie. But as a
right,
movie itself, it's actually an enjoyable movie.
sure.
Now, one of the problems I have with the movie, and like you said, you haven't seen it yet. Are you familiar with Jim Garrison and what he did?
No, but I'm gonna look it up right now.
Okay,
Jim Garrison.
Yeah, Jim Garrison was the one who he's that's the character that Kevin Costner plays in the movie.
He was
Uh,
an attorney, it looks like.
yeah, yeah, he was like he brought charges against several people against the assassination of JFK. So,
Yeah,
oh, and spoiler alert, the main character gets shot at the and killed at the very beginning of the movie. Sorry.
that's okay.
So the I know you haven't seen this yet, but I would have to say that Kevin Costner's portrayal of Jim Garrison is nothing like the actual man himself.
Okay.
Jim Garrison was a lot of people believed in Jim Garrison because he's a very I've seen you can watch videos of him on YouTube. There's a lot of them out there. Very authoritative, very large, very tall man. I mean, not when I say large, I mean like very
6'6", it looks like, was his height.
yeah, yeah. He was, and so people looked up to him literally, and sometimes, but they looked at him as someone who knew what he was talking about. His voice was very deep. He didn't stumble over his words at all. And so, people, when he said that JFK was assassinated, people said, "Yeah, I agree, I believe you," because he put on that presence.
He had
Uh,
a lot of conviction. So you're saying.
exactly. That's exactly what I meant. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I
Um,
got you.
in the movie, uh, Kevin Costner's now I've heard that Kevin Costner's character was Jim Garrison, but it was also based on another character as well. I'm not sure. So it might have been a culmination of a couple, but um, in the movie, Kevin Costner comes across as a sympathetic, we need to save democracy kind of person, and this is our last chance to do that. And by the end of the movie, you're rooting for him. He's like,
Hmm.
that's nothing like Jim Garrison at all. Jim,
Right, right.
he's not sympathetic. He's not. And Kevin Costner was almost crying in one of the scenes when he was in the courtroom. Um, Now, also, just to let you know, the actual Jim Garrison himself was in the movie. He had a cameo. So when you watch, if you have a chance to watch the movie, he plays the judge, in the court scene. So uh,
Okay. Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
forget.
try to get to that this weekend.
Right, right. I'm not sure what the judge's name was in the court case, but he is not the judge. It's another relatively famous name to this case. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So um now as far as anyone else, there was there was no there were really no other people that really that were brought up on charges. I can't remember the names of the people who were brought up on the charges, but nobody was found guilty.
Okay.
So and during the actual, there's the two commissions that were brought up. There was the Warren Commission. You're familiar with that, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, the Warren Commission was the first one to confirm who shot Kennedy, and
Okay.
they had a unanimous ruling that it was Oswald. There was no doubt in their mind that it was
Okay.
Oswald. Okay. Then, because there was a lot of doubt, especially during the 1970s when Geraldo first played the actual Zapruder film to the public, because it had never been seen. It hadn't been. It was filmed in 1963. It wasn't shown until the early 70s. At least 10 years had gone by, so no one in the public had actually seen it. So it was a big thing. So then, when that film was shown, that's when they came with another commission, the Presidential Commission on Assassinations. And I forget how long that one took place, but that one was almost conclusive, except one of the people involved at the very end, right at the very end of the commission, there was an clip that came out from a motorcycle that had its microphone open, and it's a recording. It's on an old style belt. It's not like a tape recording, but it's like a belt that would like create grooves on a thing on a patty. It's like it's if you'd see it, it would make more sense. Almost like a record, how
Hmm.
a record has grooves,
Okay.
but it's on a belt. Anyway, it was played back, and in the recording, they claim that there were 4 shots fired. So because of that, everyone says everyone, and especially in the movie, everyone says if you can prove that there was a fourth shot fired, that automatically means a conspiracy. But I don't. Even if let's say you can prove there was a fourth shot fired, that doesn't mean conspiracy. That just means that there was another shot fired. I think people are just jumping to the conclusion to think because they want to prove there is a conspiracy that when you hear a fourth shot, that means it was automatically a conspiracy. So um, who was the one of the people on the second commission was about to rule. They were about to rule unanimously again that there was no conspiracy, but because of that one recording, one of the people said no, he wasn't sure. So he was the only man standing out. So the second commission ruled that there might have been a conspiracy because of that recording. So I don't know if you knew about that.
No, I didn't. I didn't hear about the fourth shot, anything about that. I mean, there's so many different conspiracies that, involve the JFK assassination that sometimes it's hard for me to kind of keep track of them all. But yeah, no, I hadn't heard that one before.
Okay. Now, and like I said, a fourth shot, in my opinion, doesn't mean a conspiracy. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Maybe there was another shot fired from someone else. I mean, you can't just automatically assume that the fourth shot, if there was one, was because of that. Now, a lot of people have disputed the recording, and the only people who have said that it was a shot fired were the people who analyzed, I forget the name of the company. They actually analyzed the recording and played it back and did some analysis.
Uh-huh.
They're the only ones that said it was a gunshot. Several other people have said, no, it's not a gunshot. So,
So there's even debate, and I agree with you. Just because there is a fourth shot doesn't mean that it's necessarily a conspiracy or that there was a second shooter or anything like that. But the plot thickens, so to speak.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it could, I mean, I'm not whirling out that it could be a conspiracy. I'm just
Sure,
saying,
but no, there's no. That's not proof that
yeah.
it's a conspiracy. I agree with you.
And this goes back to what I was saying last week, where people just look for things to prove what they want to believe. And so
Right.
they'll say, oh, fourth shot, that automatically means it. See, that proves it right there. And
Right.
just
Right.
keeps
No, I
doing
agree with that. You got to look a little bit deeper for sure.
it. Now there's also the whole thing with the magic bullet, which we discussed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was recently watching a video with Joe Rogan, who talked about this, and he's convinced that it is a conspiracy. Um, and one of the arguments he pulls out, and I don't have enough evidence on this, or enough information, I should say, is that the bullets that is the magic bullet looks in almost pristine condition. So, uh, a lot of people argue that if a bullet goes through and hits bone, it's going to have more of a it's going to have an impact on it in some way. In the bullet
Right.
did not
It's
have.
going to cause damage to the bullet in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Now there was recently, I actually looked this up just for the fun of it, like a day or so ago. That I think it was a father and son team. They did some testing on this, and they said that when they did their testing, in a similar way, that the bullet would actually sometimes go through the dummy they had for JFK and into the governor. When it came out of the JFK dummy, it would actually start to rotate through the air, so it wasn't going straight anymore. And they based on what their investigation, they believe that the magic bullet is not a magic bullet. It was actually correct that it could have actually gone through and actually not gotten enough damage based on that. So,
Interesting.
what was the other thing that oh, there was one other thing about that too. I forgot what it was. But and also the yeah, there was another video I told you about last week. Unfortunately, that one I couldn't find that one on YouTube. That was probably taken down. That was from I vaguely remember it, but it was from a 40th anniversary of the JFK shooting that was with that took place. The show itself took place in 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked all over for it and I couldn't find it. All I could find was a promo for it. So that guy, there was a video in there where the guy did something very similar. He had a computer generated image and showed the same kind of I example through his, and it was actually like, that's the one that was for me very convincing that no, there is no magic bullet. It actually could do what it says.
Right.
What they say. I mean, it actually could go travel through, and it looked like it's going a weird way, but you have to take into consideration the way they were sitting and the way they were leaning and all that. And nope. And when people do that, they don't. And so what happens is they say, well, it can't go this way and this way. And that it throws the whole thing off when you position them in the wrong way. So,
Right.
oh, and also, now I remember the other thing I was going to say. There's the whole thing where the people say that JFK, when he gets hit, the final fatal shot, his head goes back and to the left. I'm sure you're familiar with that scene.
Right. Yeah, we discussed this last week a little bit, but you were saying it was because of his posture and how he was sitting initially, right?
Yeah, well, there's when I'm sure you're familiar. Well, I don't know if I'm sure you know that if you have a gun, I don't know if you've ever fired a gun. Have you ever had a chance
I
to fire?
have actually pretty recently, but yeah, I have.
Okay, was there recoil when you fired the gun?
Yes, I mean I shot like 8 different guns, but yeah, there was recoil with all of them.
Yeah, and so what happens is when from what I understand now, maybe I have some of this wrong. When the bullet went through Kennedy's skull, it went out and through the back, and formed a small tunnel. So what you had was a small recoil effect on his head, and that's why he goes backwards. So it's not exactly the same, but it has a similar effect. It tunneled through his brain, came out the front of his skull, and that created recoil, and that's why his head basically went back, shot back into the left like that. A lot of people argue that if you fire the gun, you'd have to fire from the front, and because the bullet was hitting from the front, that's why he recoiled backwards.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
Hmm.
like I said, I might have some of that factual information wrong, but there was a show by Penn and Teller about 15 years ago. They used to have a show called Bullshit, which I watched a lot.
Right. You actually introduced me to it last week. I had no clue what it was, but now I do. Now I'm aware of what it is. So thank
Have you
you
had a
for
chance to see
that.
any of it?
I did. I watched like a clip. I think after we talked, but that
Okay.
was it. Yeah,
If
I had never heard of it prior to you mentioning it last week.
Gotcha. Now, if you get a chance to watch it, Penn and Teller are both diehard libertarians. So,
Right. Yes, I was aware of that. Hmm.
okay. The other thing about them, they're the ones that I getting off subject here since we brought up Penn and Teller. We talked about you and I had talked about immigration, and I told you that libertarians, some of them actually support illegal immigrants now or illegal aliens, and I told you it's because they. I'm not saying all of them do, but
Sure.
Penn and Teller are definitely libertarians that support the idea that we shouldn't bar illegal aliens from coming into the country.
Um.
That's
What
that
is there? Yeah. What's the reason for?
because basically it
Yeah.
lowers wages. So when you're a businessman, because they're businessmen, basically it means they don't have to pay as much to their employees at that point. Uh,
Sure, but like when it comes, and I understand that. I totally get that from a business perspective. But then it's like, at what point would you draw the line? Like, if you just let everybody come in.
oh, I'm not
I
standing.
know I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
your idea or your point of view, but like if I would ask them, like, did we really think that through? Because at a certain point you're gonna have just a bunch of poor people here that aren't documented, that maybe aren't vetted properly, and they're gonna be in the system or not in the system, and then you don't really know who's in your country, and all the other issues. But yeah, I think that's problematic. But yeah, good for them.
Yeah, it's no, I understand. I also understand the argument that a lot of I think conservatives make, that when you have illegal aliens coming in, there's excuse me, the resources on our end are finite. You just can't, we only have a limited, we can only do so much. And the idea that you can just let everyone in is not going to, that's going to overwhelm our system. So uh,
Sure.
that's one of the arguments I've heard from that. And a lot of the arguments, I think a lot of the arguments made by the illegal alien problem nowadays is more of a virtue signaling thing by the Democrats. I mean,
100% agree.
yeah. So because I've seen several people show examples of where these same people 10 years ago were saying the exact opposite. So I don't think they really have changed their opinion. They're just saying things to win over the vote or win over a certain audience.
Right. I'm sure you heard about the shooting that happened in Atlanta, like the two-part shooting that happened in Atlanta at the massage spas yesterday.
No. Oh, no, no, I did not. No, not.
Oh, yeah. So there was a shooting. 8 people died. I think, like, I'm gonna get the numbers wrong. Maybe 5 of the 8, 6 of the 8 were Asian. This happened, I think, yesterday.
Oh, okay. I
And you probably saw like a headline and was like, "Oh, another shooting." Like, it was one of those things for me initially, but then I realized it seemed like he was targeting Asian Americans. Um, so I've been seeing a lot of posts today regarding racism in America. Now it's racism against Asians. And people are saying like, look at how broken our system is. Racism is still pervasive, and blah blah blah. And I'm not trying to take away from the tragedy, the level of tragedy that happened during the event. Of course, it's horrific, no doubt. But to be like, this is race, it's like they're making it seem like this is an overwhelming problem in the United States, that there's racists and there's people who are hateful. It's like, well, you're never going to stamp out crazy. Like, there's plenty of people who may have, like, maybe they don't like Asians or maybe they don't like blacks, but they keep to themselves and they don't hurt anybody and they just do their thing, which to me is like, whatever, no problem. Like, do your thing. But for someone to go out and take a rifle and gun down two different businesses, like, not only is that person like racist, but that person is clinically insane.
Yeah.
And I feel like people aren't taking that into consideration. It's just like this hateful racist. It's like, okay, if he came from such a racist background, why did his parents help authorities catch him and turn him in? Like,
What was that?
his parents. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You kind of fuzzed a little fuzzy there
Oh, is
in
that a
the
little
audio.
better?
Yeah, no, you're fine. It was a buffering issue. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so I'm like, well, if everybody's so racist, if he was so, came from a racist background, why would his parents notify authorities and help authorities track and capture their son? So, I've just been seeing a lot of like liberals virtue signaling today about how hateful everything is. And nobody saw this happen and go, "Oh, great, Asians are dead." Like, no one would say that. Nobody.
No.
So, it's like you're never going to stamp out crazy. Like, you can have all of the, you know, diversity training, all of the exposure therapy, whatever it is that we're trying to reverse racism. You're always going to have people who are just batshit crazy in every society. And so I feel like people really aren't taking that into consideration.
Right. The and I would like to see these people if they could maybe go back in time to say like the late 50s, early 60s, they would have a heart attack compared to what it was when they talk about racism. There was major racism back in those days.
Sure.
Um, that was the civil rights era, and people were, I mean, they they probably just fall over and die.
Oh, sorry about that. That was my fault.
That's okay.
Hit myself
The
in the face. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but it's I mean the idea that there's that much racism. I've worked before I got into radio. I worked in various shops. I worked on cars for a while, and I will say that at least two of the shops I worked in, there was a lot of white racist people. They would say very derogatory things about people. So it is there,
Sure.
and but they were none of them were violent. None of the people I worked with were violent, and I don't think they would ever do anything to hurt anybody. But they were definitely, they would use the N word. They'd use other
Wow.
derogatory words. So
Yes. And that's certainly, not okay. But, obviously, as long as you're not harming anybody, as long as you're not physically attacking anybody, it sounds weird saying like I don't have a problem with it, but I don't think that again, the worst thing that can happen is what happened last night. People are gunned down, lives are lost. But if you
yeah,
hold ideas that, you're not fond of a specific group, like, you can't force someone to change their heart and mind. You know what I mean? If they hold certain ideas, as long as they're not being discriminatory, as long as they're not, yelling at people and harassing people, as long as they're not harming anybody, they're allowed to have those thoughts and feelings. Like, I hate to say this, but it's a free fucking country. You can have those thoughts and feelings as long as you're not acting on them. I think that you're fine.
the I give you. I want to jump back 1 second too. I agree with what you're saying. Absolutely. One of the garages I used to work at, one of the people that was working there, he was the head mechanic. He would come. I think he was testing the waters with me. He'd walk up to me once in a while. Actually say things like, Adolf Hitler was actually right on certain things, and it's, I believe that he was the guy, the mechanic that is. I think he was probably a member of the KKK. I really do with the way he talked. So,
Yeah,
um,
like there's so
and I would
here's
look at him. I go,
here's
I'd say no, no, I don't think so. No, not at all.
well, here's the
But
thing. I'm always down to play devil's advocate because I don't know the person, and it sounds like he was probably an anti-Semite. But in his defense, I like, for example, like both Hitler and I are both were and am vegetarian. Like Hitler had an affinity for animals, not so much for Jews, but didn't eat animals. So I mean, like in that regard, Hitler and I like share commonality, which sounds insane, and it's like you're never no one is gonna remember him. Like PETA isn't gonna be like great, good job, Hitler, like obviously. But like if you look at people like Saddam Hussein, who did really wonderful things for the country of Iraq in terms of like infrastructure and their economy, schooling, education, streets, things like that. He really kind of boosted the country up. No one's really talking about that. People are more like, oh, right, Gulf War, he was gassing the Kuwaitis. Like, you know what I mean? And so those are the kinds of things that he's remembered for and, should be. But, like, I'm always willing to have the discussion, like, okay, fair enough. He did do some good too. Like, but, that's just
I I never heard that part about the schools and the streets and all that. So I that's the first I'd ever
yeah,
heard that. I'm only
right.
hearing the negative aspects, I guess. I guess
Of
that's what the
course. But, right, but it's like, if you live next to a murderer, rarely do you hear anyone say like he was a great guy, he was always nice, like always, gave me a cup of sugar when I was short. It's like you don't really remember that when he was, boiling people in his basement. You know what I mean? When he was Jeffrey Dahmer, you're not going to be like, yeah, he was really great, really friendly guy. Like no one's going to tell you that. So
really friendly guys. Weird odor came from his house, but really friendly guy.
yeah. Yeah, great guy. But I don't know if you if you were ever got into the Jeffrey Dahmer case, but what I thought was so funny because I think most of his victims were black gay men. It was really funny because when he got to prison, and I think he confessed to everything. I mean, he was caught, but he confessed to everything, admitted to everything. um, he wanted to make it known that he was not a racist. Like he said that he targeted black men because he was found them attractive. To him it was really funny that like although he like drugged, raped, murdered, and ate them, like he wanted people to know that he was not racist. Like, so it's like even he had a code of ethics, which I just thought to be really funny.
I didn't know it was black. I remember reading the story. I thought it was more kids. Was it more kids or young people?
It was young black men, but I think they were all of age because he was finding them at gay clubs. I think in like Wisconsin, I want to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what I remember about it was the bodies were all and it buried. He buried them all in his house, right in the basement. All of them.
Yeah, and then he put them in some sort of like compression pot or something, and I don't know if it was for preservation or he was doing something to the bodies where he was, I don't know, cooking them or something, and then would take them out and I don't know if he like, I know he did sexual stuff with them probably when they were freshly dead, and then he, ate their bodies.
Oh,
So
geez. Okay, I remember all that.
did
Okay,
you? Oh, you don't remember? Yeah, yeah, that was pretty crazy shit. Um,
I didn't. All I remember is he killed a lot of young men. That's all I remembered. So,
Yeah,
wow.
I think the thing that I found, I know this sounds weird, but I think the thing I found most disturbing about the Jeffrey Dahmer case is like when I initially started investigating it, I was like, he was probably raped as a kid and like his parents probably beat him and tortured him. No, no, it was
Just
a really normal upbringing. His dad was like a chemist or something. I want to say he was assigned maybe a biologist, and so Jeffrey Dahmer, like, had an interest, or his dad exposed him to like, I don't know if he would like pick up roadkill or like dead animals or something and pick them up and try to dissect them. So he always had an interest in that. But I think the thing that I found most disturbing about the case was the fact that he was just had a very normal upbringing. which makes you think like, fuck, that could happen to anybody, you know?
Right. Nothing, no bullying or anything like that.
I don't think so. The only thing that they picked up was like, oh, his mom had like depression or something. I'm like, who fucking doesn't have depression? You know, like it wasn't like she was. I, I think she suffered from like anxiety. Like it was something that was so super common. Like I didn't even think it was almost like worth mentioning. Like, oh, she was depressed or oh, she had anxiety. It's like the way that he acted as an adult, you would think that he was tormented as a kid, and he wasn't, which
Mm.
which was the most disturbing part, oddly enough. Because then it's like, well, shit, like that was just like coded in his DNA, you know.
No, but nobody considered him a hero, though, right?
Jeffrey Dahmer? No, no, I don't.
The reason I bring that up is because I brought up the bullying part, and I'm sure you know the Columbine high school shootings from the 90s.
Yes,
For some reason, those the two kids are considered heroes by people, and I don't know why. That's the one that really boggles my mind.
what was the motive behind? I don't even. It just that they were. It was just that they were like not redemption. What do you call it? They were like they were vindicating themselves or something like that, right? Because they were bullied, or was
Well,
it like a? It wasn't a
some
white supremacist thing, was
Oh no,
it?
I don't think it was. I don't think so. I think they might have used some racial slurs here and there, but I don't think they were like outright racist. Um,
Okay,
but I don't know. I could be wrong in that part. But no, from what I understand, the narrative is right now that they were bullied and that they fought back. But I've heard several people argue no, they weren't bullies. They were never bullied. They themselves were more bullies towards other people. So
interesting.
and I believe that they're trying to for some reason people try to portray them as victims,
Okay,
which makes absolute. I'm like, you killed 13 people. It's like, oh, you're a victim. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But you don't see anyone trying to make Jeffrey Dahmer a victim. So
no, I've never even heard anyone show sympathy for the call. I always say Combine, and I'm like, I know that's a football thing, so I don't know why I say the Columbine shooting, right? I did see a TED talk given by one of their mothers,
oh
which
really?
was
Wow.
yeah, a really interesting talk about forgiveness, like forgiving herself, because she, you know, gave birth, raised someone who, you know, took the lives of, was it 13 plus the two, or
Something like I don't remember the exact number, but
right, so whatever it is, like at least 10 plus lives taken because of her son, and obviously she blamed herself for a lot of that, as I think any normal person would. So
yeah,
that was really interesting
the
talk.
yeah, the just get back to the idea that they're victims or go watch. I've seen this several videos. Go watch videos about the Columbine shooting and look in the comment section, and you'll see people. Those two were heroes. I'm serious. It's like I'm like, what? How does that make any sense?
Interesting. Was it like, what is this the take on the part of the people defending them, that it was like an
Like
anti-bullying thing,
yeah,
or
they thought they look at them as if they were bullies, that they were bullied. I'm sorry, that that the two of them were bullied and that they were just
right?
fighting back. It's like that doesn't make that's not even if that's true. Let's say it's true. You don't go around shooting 13 people and then call them heroes afterwards.
Yeah,
It's
that's not the
it's
move.
it's all over the place. I mean, there was remember, have you ever been to? I'm sure you've been to IMDb, the movie database.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There used to, if you before they took away the comment sections on those two had their own comment sections, and there were several people saying I'm so sad these people died, these two died, these two guys. It was like unreal. It's like all over the place. I couldn't believe it. It's like everywhere.
Yeah,
I,
that's wild. I have not seen anything about that, but I'm sure it exists.
and of course, if you watch the Bowling for Columbine movie that Michael Moore made, yeah, yeah, he by the end he doesn't discuss the kids really at all. It's more about anti-guns and it's more of an anti-gun movie than anything else. Um, but
What was the weapon that they used? Was
uh,
it an AR?
I don't remember the exact. I don't know what it was. It was a gun. I'm not a gun person, so I don't know. But I know it's something big. So,
Uh-huh.
not a handheld, not something you just hold in your
Not a
hand.
handgun, right?
Right. Yeah. So, a rifle of some kind. But anyway, in the movie, by the end of the movie, you're actually that movie, Michael Moore is so yeah, manipulating it.
Manipulative?
I can't say the word. Yes.
Oh, you
The
got it.
he he is that basically you're almost feeling sorry for the two kids by the end of the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it. That's I don't
I
I
didn't watch that one. I'm not a huge fan of Michael Moore. I did see the other, the Fahrenheit 9/11, right?
Oh, you haven't seen that one, no, but I know what you mean.
Okay,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I didn't see the Bowling for Columbine. No,
yeah, it's like he takes everything out of yeah. There's a we could do a whole thing about Michael Moore. I don't like Michael Moore as a person. I agree with some of his points of view. Other points of view I don't agree with, but I do believe I do honestly believe that he is a politically motivated person and he believes he has a
sure,
political point of view that he stands by. But the means by which he does present himself is just full of shit. He's not he takes things way out of context. He'll take things, he'll create scenarios that didn't exist and present them as fact. I was There's people have even shown, like, if you watch his movies, like he'll show news reporters giving newscasts, and it turns
sure.
out the newscasters are actors that were paid to be in the movie to do that.
To recreate
Well,
whatever scene.
not recreate, no, just to create a fictional newscast that never happened.
Oh, I see.
And
Interesting.
like he'll run PSAs, like, public service announcements that were ran on TV. They weren't. They were just he created those just for the movie. So he'll have it's all of it. It's all almost everybody in the movies that he shows are all actors. It's not there's nothing there that are not I'm not everyone. I mean those kinds of scenes, I mean, though. Are just people acting, newscasters, commercials that he runs. It's all just basically to provoke you into thinking, guns are bad or whatever he's trying to show is bad, or
Sure.
maybe something's good. So, and when I found that, I was like, oh, this is this is awful.
Didn't he make a movie on how great the healthcare system was in Cuba? He was trying to promote and advocate for socialized medicine, and he's like, yeah, like look at Cuba, everybody has healthcare. And then it was like, well, like have you been to Cuba? Like they don't have any resources. Everybody's poor. I mean, imagine like swimming 30 miles away from your home country with nothing but like the clothes on the raft, and coming to Miami, Florida with nothing because where you're from is so fucking terrible. Like they're escaping something, you know. And he was just like, "No, it's great. Socialized medicine is great. Check out Cuba and how successful they are." It's like, yeah, they have less people to care for because everybody is swimming away.
Yeah, I would even go to another country. That's that for any reason to get that. I mean, like anywhere south like that. I mean, yeah, that's just scary to begin with. You would actually say that it's better. Um, there was a story I heard. I might have been on the Howard Stern show one time.
Hmm.
This guy wanted to save money, so he went to another country. He had to have one of his eyes removed because for whatever reason it had to be removed. It couldn't be left in his head. So he decided to go to another country to have his eye removed, and because it was cheaper than doing it in the United States. When they
Uh-oh, I smell a botch situation on our hands, but go ahead.
well, this is a guy called him up. He claims that when he went to have the operation done, they removed the wrong eye, so now he's permanently blind. So
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's wild.
so it was stuff like that. When I hear stories like that, I mean, it sounds like it could be real, but it does scare me to not want to do that because
Yeah, no, I hear about stuff that happens like that all the time where people go to like Mexico or Thailand or something like that. Apparently, Thailand is like a hot spot for plastic surgery. Like a lot of people go there because it's a lot cheaper than to do it like in the US or Canada. But because there's like such a big ladyboy population and a lot of people are, transitioning, especially male to female, there's a big market for it. So there's a lot of girls that go there to get like breast augmentation done and stuff like that.
hmm, okay. The you said there's that's where a lot of transgender people go. Is that what you're really?
No, there's a lot of I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the population of what they call lady boys in
Oh,
Thailand.
oh, okay. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. So in Thailand there's like a big population of biologically born men that either act like women or live the life of women or seduce men, to have sex with, whatever it may be. But it's a big thing in Southeast Asia. Check out like lady boys. But I've been to
Hmm.
Thailand. I was there for like 3 months. And you're walking just down the street and they'll holler at you, and sometimes they're dressed like women, sometimes they're not, sometimes they've removed body parts, sometimes they haven't, but it's just like this kind of community of, I mean, LGBT, I guess, is the how to properly categorize them. But just like gay men, but everything from like gay men to fully transsexual men, women, I guess now. So it's an interesting phenomenon. But I mean, I had friends that were American or whatever, and they were hooking, or they would meet a girl, or so they thought, at like a bar, and then try to go home with that person, and then found out that it was actually not a woman, and
Oh,
sort of a thing. So I
wow,
mean, people I know personally, this has happened to multiple times.
they
So
must have been pretty convincing. I mean, usually, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I don't see too many men that go through that you still can't tell that they were men from the beginning.
Well, here's the thing. I was with my buddy one of the nights when it happened, and I still rib him about it to this day. Like, he's not traumatized, and he's a pretty funny guy, so he's just like, whatever, it happens. But we were actually in Lao, and we were at a club, and I saw him talking to a girl, and I'm looking at her because that had happened to him before when he was in the Philippines, and it's just something you got to look out for. Like, if you're talking to another like white person, you're fine, but if you're talking to an Asian person who's from the area, local, you just got to kind of watch out for it.
Mm,
And he was talking to this girl, and I mean, I always look for like how the fat's distributed on the person's body, because that's really telling, because men and women distribute fat very differently.
right.
So, like on her butt is her, look at her hands, look at her throat. Does she have an Adam's apple? Like, are the hands a little bit enlarged? Or what does the jaw look like? I was like I was very I was paying close attention. Even though I was kind of drunk, I was still like, yeah, I think that's a chick. Like, I think you're good. Like the breasts and everything like that. Because sometimes you can kind of tell, like, the waist to hip ratio is larger for men. Like, it's they don't have hips, or the waist and the hips are kind of like in a straight line. They don't have like the hourglass figure or anything. So I'm like, I think you're good. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to where we're staying. I'm like, all right. And I was there. I met some friends. Whatever. We're hanging out. We go to leave, and we get in what's called like a tuk-tuk, which is just basically like a cab, but like a between a golf cart and a cab. But it's just like how you're transported in Southeast Asia.
Uh-huh.
And we jump in, and out of nowhere, my buddy just jumps in the car with us. He's like, hey guys. And I'm like, what are you doing here? What happened? And at this point, I know, and I just start laughing, and I'm just like, I know what happened. But he's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, oh, we're gonna talk about it, because this guy would like torture me, and I would torture him. We had a very like brother sisterly relationship. I'm like, what happened? What happened? So finally, we got it out of him that he wanted to go back to our where we were staying, like a hostel. But the tuk-tuk driver, like another one, refused to take him. He's like, I'm not taking you. Like, I know this person. They're going to bamboozle you. And the tuk-tuk driver saved the day and refused to drive this guy back to the hotel. So, like,
Wait,
I was like,
wait,
yeah. So my friend gave him his shirt. He, like, took his shirt off of his back. It was, like, a nice dress shirt, and he gave it to the driver. Thank you for saving me. So,
the driver, I missed something there. The driver convinced him not to go back to this so-called woman, I guess?
yeah. So he tried
Okay,
to leave like probably 30 minutes before the rest of us to go like hook up with her. But when he
okay.
tried to leave, he picked up a cab, say, and the cab driver refused to take him back to the hotel, because he knew that that was a person who like was a ladyboy and
Ah, okay.
had done business before. And I don't know if she was in it for money, or if she was just like had had an appetite for straight men, white men, whatever. But um, knew the person, knew what they were up to, and refused to take my friend to the hotel.
I
And
get you
so
now.
then he like had this, there was a bit of a confrontation. And by the time that was over, we were leaving, and he jumped in our cab, and we're like, what happened? And it was pretty clear from the get that I'm like, first of all, why is your shirt missing? Like, that's weird. He had given it to the tuk tuk driver as like a thank you, a gift. So it was funny.
The talking about people that do the transition thing. I have a cousin who did that. I found out, and
Oh,
he lives in Denver. I don't like him only because we grew up together. He was always a jerk when we grew up, so I don't really like him. So nothing to do with him not being a woman, but we have just very similar facial features. So if
interesting.
I now know what I would probably look like if I were to walk around in drag. So
There you go.
no
Was
offense,
it
he
a
can do
good
whatever.
thing or is it not a good thing?
Yeah. No offense to what he wants to do. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. It's just, I was like, so that's what I would look like. Okay.
Interesting. There you go.
No, I guess we could go all the way back to where this all led up from. I was talking about Penn and Teller, and I was going to tell you about the shot about how they actually did on their JFK show about conspiracies. They actually did their own test and showed that when they fired a gun from behind into the JFK dummy head, that
Uh-huh.
the shot did exactly like it did in the Zapruder film. It went back into the left, even though they shot from behind. So, um,
Yeah.
the whole idea, a lot of people claim that the reason his head went back is because there was a gunman in front. And that's why, so the bullets, when it hit his head, forced his head to jerk backwards. And that's why it goes back like that. But that's
Right.
not really, it really isn't an argument. And it's just it depends on how how the bullet enters and how it exits. That's going to make the head react how it does. So,
Right.
um, the other thing I think I said this last week was the firing a gun from the front was a much more difficult shot than from behind because the shot from behind the his limo was actually going away in a straight line, just away from him. So when something
Mm-hmm.
goes away from you in a straight line, you can shoot it much more easily. Whereas
Sure.
like I said, I'm not a gun expert. I've never actually fired a gun, but playing video games, when you're firing a gun from something that's going left and right in front of you, that is incredibly hard to shoot
Mm-hmm.
something. Unless you're lucky, if you fired one shot, you'd have to fire the gun so the bullet uh, would be at the point where his head is going to be when that car is moving, so they hit at the right time. You have to take all
Right.
that into consideration. It's not just firing the gun and hoping it hits because the bullet is everything is moving at a certain rate. So when you're firing in a straight line from behind, that isn't really much of a factor because the bullet is you can aim it much easier. So I'm just making my
Right.
point. I'm not saying there wasn't one in the front. I mean, there very well could have been, but
Sure.
the
It doesn't give evidence that right
yeah,
or enough evidence to
right.
suggest that it was right.
The other argument I've heard, and this one is really, I think, really ridiculous, is that that someone was actually in the storm drain, like in the sewer, and they fired a gun as the car went by. I'm like, that would be the most.
Oh, I haven't heard that. There's so many different ones. Oh, God damn it! I'm so sorry. Yeah, there were so many different ones that it is hard to keep track of, and it's funny that people keep trying to create new ones. It's like I think we have enough, guys. Like, I don't think we need to create more of a circus.
And how do you feel about Ruby? Was it is it Jack Ruby? Jack Ruby, yeah. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
with the guy that killed Oswald,
Yeah.
like the day after the assassination. I don't know. I mean, I know that it wasn't he was part of the mob, right? That was known,
Well,
right?
people people claim I don't remember that part of it, but people
I
what
could be
I've
wrong.
heard. Yeah, it's very possible. I think he might have had some sort of association with him. I don't remember that part of it though. What I remember hearing was that people that knew him supposedly said that he just wanted to make a name for himself. He wasn't trying to kill him off like because he was doing it for as a mafia hit. He wanted to kill Oswald because this would make him a popular person, and he didn't think he was going to be arrested for it. So he
Oh, I see.
he thought he was going to show the world, hey, I'm gonna make a name for myself, and I'm going to kill the person who just shot the president. So the idea that he shot and killed him was a lot of conspiracy people think that it was that he did it intentionally to as part of
He,
to shut him up.
he was not. Yeah, he was not. I don't think he was part of the mob. I think he was Jewish.
Yeah, I he was
Yeah,
a club owner that I do know.
I remember the club owner part, but his real name is Jacob Leon Rubenstein, which is a dead giveaway.
Uh,
But yeah, I didn't realize. I honestly thought he was part of the mob, but I don't think it was.
he might have some sort of tie-in with something. I don't know. That's it.
Yeah.
I can't say. But but the conspiracy side says, well, he did it because he was trying to shut him up. But why do it if that's the case? I mean, this is just speculation here. So if that's the case, why would you do it in such a public, open area, and why would you allow yourself to be arrested afterwards? Um,
Right. He was sentenced to death. I didn't know that.
oh, Ruby was really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. No, I didn't know that.
I did
Oh,
not know that either. Yeah, it looks like he died in 67
was
by
he? What? But he was actually put. He was actually put. I mean, what was it, electric chair or what? Do you know?
oh, well, this is plot twist here. Ruby died of a pulmonary embolism
Oh, okay.
less than a month after his cancer diagnosis. But
I do remember.
that's weird. I mean, they sentenced him. That's what it said. It says they sentenced him to death. Found Ruby guilty of murdering Oswald, and he was sentenced to death. And then just died. So there you go.
The I do remember that now. Now that you said I remember he did. I remember him getting something. But yeah, I completely forgot about. I didn't know about. Maybe I didn't. I just forgot. I didn't know he was sentenced to death though. That's interesting. So
Yeah, I never knew that. So,
all right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap everything up for today.
okay.
So
Well, thank you for having me on. It was a good time. I enjoy the discussions. And I think next week you said we're going to do Thursday,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we'll do the show will be on Thursday with Anna, and we'll have a yeah, we'll have another discussion. And yeah, everyone, thanks for watching, and have a good time. I'll see you next week. Hang on.